We then cut to an interview with the Steiners. They're talking about why it's not important to be undefeated and how defeat has made them stronger and things. The first real time we're beginning to see that Scott Steiner is losing his marbles.
I mean, Scott Steiner's arms are ridiculous in this. They are gigantic.
Oh, yeah.
Like tree trunks.
Yeah, and he is beginning to get very, very angry, even when they just sort of are going, just speak for 2 minutes. And he'll go, I will start. By the time I get to the end, I'm going to be furious. I'm going to work myself up into a frenzy. In Bill Watts' autobiography, he writes about Scott Steiner at this period. He says, to me, Scott was a living example of what happens to a guy on steroids. No one's ever really done a study of steroid addiction. But when you're on a substance that changes your personality, and steroids do that, it's drug abuse. I mean, it goes without saying.
Yeah, I mean you didn't need to classify that.
I am sure people have done a study on steroid addiction. He said Scott Steiner was so blown on that stuff, he had what I call roid rages.
Again,
not
you didn't.
you didn't. Not what you call. Once he'd added them onto his ego, he became impossible. I also thought he was a bully. He'd hurt job guys for no real reason, getting mad when they couldn't execute something like he wanted them to. There is one thing about the Steiners which I love, is we're in that period where WCW are so bad at merchandise, and they are both wearing a Steiners t-shirt, and it's got both of them as sort of like Victor Frankensteins.
Yes.
Again, because of just the name. But it's just such a sort of ugly piece of stuff. Why isn't it available now? Why can't I have that t-shirt? Absolutely brilliant. Second match, Pete. Shinya Hashimoto and Hiroshi Hase versus the Freebirds.
Oh, the Freebirds.
No one has yet told the Freebirds that their changes are afoot. And they obviously go, well, there are changes, but they don't apply to us.
No, because we are rock stars.
We are rock stars. We're famous recording artists. We're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Freebirds quickly find out that the new hard-hitting era of Bill Watts is not one they want anything to do with. They obviously have thought, we've worked over the last 20 years to get to a point where we're just on television and we're doing silly stuff and we're dancing around.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're like, well, here are Shinya Hashimoto and Hiroshi Hase from New Japan, and you have got 20 minutes. Michael Hayes does a lot of dancing at the start, and I think part of that is to go, if I can just run the clock down a bit, claw a bit off the front, we're only going to have to do 13 minutes. And so I think he's really got that on his mind.
Well, and this whole match starts off with Michael Hayes doing the shittest moonwalk I've ever seen. And I think it might be the shortest match as well, 9 minutes and 60. It's the shortest match at 9 minutes.
God, it would not surprise me if he was in and out. Hase and Hashimoto, they get the traditional 15th century Japan.
Yeah.
Hashimoto also doesn't help because he turns up dressed as like a Japanese bartender from the 14th century, which is a good look. Now, the Freebirds are really the only legitimate tag team in this entire tournament that the American crowds would know. The others were Japanese, or they were formed especially really for this tournament. But what you have is Hase and Hashimoto are, seriously important sort of figures in Japanese wrestling. Hase, we had a look at his Twitter only last night over WhatsApp.
Well worth a little peek. If you find his name in kanji on the Wikipedia, copy and paste that into Google, and it's just fantastic. It's him in a suit, because he was Minister of Education and Sport, and
Minister of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology.
Under Shinzo Abe.
Yeah. He is he's not one of those guys who is a bit like Jesse Ventura, where you are a independent centre. He is a key part of the Japanese political establishment.
He's in the cabinet, like really close to, and his Twitter is just him in a suit doing his campaigning, or him with his top off doing flexes, and he's got lovely kind of tanned boobies,
really sort of brown biscuit boobs. It's just a
big
thing
dark
of
areolas.
Beauty. In 1992, so this year, he had a match with Great Muta, which created something called the Muta scale, and that is the Muta scale is a chart of bleeding, a sort of 10-point chart. It was because during the match they had, Muta did a blade job. It went really badly wrong, and he was just drenched in blood. Right. So that is a 10 on the Muta scale. That's a 10. So the Muta scale is a way of going how much someone bleeds during a match.
Doesn't Muta do the green mist as well?
He does. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I think he was doing it that night because I think he was fighting very hard to breathe. All gone horribly wrong. Hase is also one of the first first people to use the urinage as a finishing move. That is better known as the rock bottom.
Oh.
And he is also, among his peers, he is incredibly highly regarded because he's seen as being one of the most unselfish wrestlers in the entire industry. He was always willing to put anyone over.
Oh, that's nice.
So he has had a wonderful, I mean, a career full of glory, full of respect. He goes on to become a high-ranking politician.
He shaved his moustache, though. I'm very disappointed.
He has, yeah.
A lovely little moustache.
Occasionally, when he would wrestle, he would have a period where he'd take his moustache off. And whenever you saw him wrestling, it was like seeing Hulk Hogan would occasionally have a month where he didn't have a moustache. And I will not watch those matches. It's entirely wrong. His partner is Shinya Hashimoto, who has a bad tournament. He comes across really boring and plodding in this tournament. He is one of the three musketeers of 1990s Japanese wrestling, along with Masachono and Keiji Muto. His career didn't really kick into top gear until a year after this. In 1993, pretty much onwards, he becomes a hugely popular main eventer, a three-time IWGP champion. He ends up leaving New Japan after a stellar career, sets up his own organisation called 01 in 2000. And his career was beginning to wind down when he just suddenly died of a brain hemorrhage in 2005.
Right.
There was absolutely no warning. I think earlier, a couple of weeks beforehand, he'd sort of said to his sister, "I've got a bit of chest pain." She'd gone, "I'll get it sorted out," and he was like, "No, I'll be fine."
Yeah.
He was not fine. The doctor said it was probably the stress of running his own promotion had contributed towards the brain hemorrhage. What would you like at this point, Pete? Would you like to just hear a little bit more of a convoluted belt story?
Yes, please.
Here we go. So, as a mark of respect after Hashimoto's death, New Japan retired the second IWGP title that they'd had made, because that was the one that Hashimoto had held. Right. So they said, right, well, we're going to retire that in honour of him. And they created a third one. And they had that from 2005. They lost it a year later because Brock Lesnar was the champion. And he went back to America and then refused to come back to Japan. So they were like, well, we don't have a belt. So they got the second one that they'd retired and said, okay, well, we'll use that again. They then created the fourth one, at which point they retired the second one.
Right.
And in 2008, the then IWGP champion, Shinsuke Nakamura, he did a anniversary show for 01. And after his match, he gave that second IWGP title to Hashimoto's son, Daichi.
Yeah.
So that he's got it. His son has got the belt finally. Brock Lesnar really, really upsetting the family of a dead Japanese performer who is seen as being an icon.
I never sort of understand whether it's like, I'm not giving it back, I'm not like coming back to wrestle, or he's physically just taking the belt home.
Yeah.
And he won't.
I mean, there is a thing where you just go, well, just send the belt back. I mean, and he's just, what's he doing? Going, no.
No. Yeah.
Just go, give us the fucking belt back.
It's around one of my horses right now.
He probably has no respect for it either. And he wouldn't know where it was. No. Did you have it when you came back? I don't know.
Why
are you crying about it? I'm hanging up now. Oh, God. There's nothing you can do. This match is really hard work. I can't believe it's 9 minutes long. It feels like it goes on forever.
Yeah.
The Japanese have to sell very basic offence that the Freebirds are putting together. It's very Americanized, and I think they would be a bit like, this is like clown wrestling. Yeah. This is weird. Nowadays, if you brought in two Japanese performers at the level of Hase and Hashimoto, anywhere in the world, the crowd would be so excited to see them. At this time, there was no way that you could watch Japanese wrestling. There is no way that anyone in that room could have seen these people perform before.
And this is what they gave them.
Yeah, even if you were like a huge fan, you would rely, the only way you'd be able to see it was you would have to rely on a Japanese person. You'd have to have a connection with a Japanese person. They would have to tape it. They would then have to send it to you. You'd have to hope that it wasn't on a different format for your VHS player.
Yeah, NTSC versus PAL.
Completely. And then, I mean, if you were in Britain, you would then usually have to find the American they'd sent it to. And you would see if they could dub you a copy, and you would need the NTSC format rather than the PAL. And it would cost loads and loads of money. They were really expensive, the prices. So bringing them in is all well and good to sort of go, we're going to have this new sort of like new era where we bring in stars from across the world. Before streaming, there was no way that anyone would have known who they are. You might as well have brought in people who were like, this is my first match. The crowd don't like it. They think that the Japanese performers are very boring and anonymous, and they don't realise, of course, that if the Japanese people don't go through, they are going to have to watch more Freebirds. So that is just mad.
And there's a kick! He got him in the face with that kick! Caught him in a suplex!
Beautiful move, 1, 2. Big win for the Japanese team. Ladies and gentlemen, the winning team advancing in this tournament, the Japanese contingent of Hiroshi Hase and Shinya Hashimoto.
The death of the Freebirds.
Yeah.
Really. Jimmy Jam Garvin, he quickly nips over to WWF when this all gets a bit serious in WCW. He does a single promo, I believe, where he says he wants to take on the Ultimate Warrior, and nobody's told him what to talk about. And backstage they're all going, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And he is immediately let go.
The coffin match. That, of course, is going to be between The Undertaker and the Ugandan giant Kamala.
Whoa, I get goosebumps up and down my body every time I think about it because it's downright scary, Mean Gene. It's downright scary. But when I think about it real hard, I'm going to have to go for Kamala, and I bet you he's probably going to eat the coffin when he's done stuffing the Undertaker in there. Yes, you can take that to the bank.
He's going to eat the box. You got to be kidding me.
And I'm very serious. He's going to eat the box, probably. I mean,
And the only little bit of Jimmy Garvin's time in 1992 in the WWF is during his promo, he said, "Are you ready for the Survivor Series?" And the crowd cheered, and they stuck that on the front of one of the WWF Superstar singles that went to like number 3 in the UK. So, had he...
I said, are you ready for the Survivor Series?
It's like the real time for WrestleMania.
Had he known that had happened, and weirdly, Michael Hayes must be so fucked off because Jimmy Jam Garvin can legitimately say, I had a top 10 hit in Britain.
Yeah.
And
true.
Michael Hayes must be like, but I've done loads. I've done loads.
Cumulatively, surely that's the same.
I've sold probably 60 of these back in 83 from a case.
River City Rock.
You know, River City Roll.
Wait a minute. Should I be calling my bookie in Las Vegas and betting on Ramon and Flair?
I bet you could bet your wife. That's how sure.
Well, wait a minute.
Or whatever you want to bet.
I'm not going to. Another match I'm going to be watching.
Have a wife?
At last chance, I had.
Not when I'm done with you, you're not going to have
Don't confuse me. You're trying to throw me off the track.